Hey, what's up, YouTube fam? It's Dana Shea, marriage and relationship coach at Real Relationship Talk, and you are watching today's live 5 at 5. And so we are going to do a two-part series. Today will be for first part, so part one, and then tomorrow we'll come back for part two. So today, you guys, we are talking all about 10 vital questions you should ask before you get married. Now, if you don't know me, if you've never been on this channel, I've been married for almost 22 years, so I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. And I'm also, like I said, a marriage and relationship coach. And so I have been able to talk to countless couples and really hearing from people who have done it wrong, people who didn't do their due diligence and asking these right questions. And so then they find themselves years later in a terrible marriage and they want out. And so we are going to just kind of talk about some of these questions that I think every single couple should be talking about. I really, really hugely, if that's even a concept, I recommend that everybody get some sort of premarital coaching or premarital counseling before you get married, because it is important. You might feel like you're in love and, you know, we're good to go, we're compatible, and all that stuff is great. But I'm trying to tell you, after almost 22 years of marriage, that if you do not do your due diligence and if you are not properly prepared, a good thing could become a bad thing in a very short time. So let's go ahead and jump into this real quick. And of course, I have my notes because I want to keep myself on track. I really do want these videos to be kind of short. And so I don't want to ramble on and on for 15 minutes. So question numero uno is, what is your love language? You know, I've talked about love languages for years now. There's a very popular book by Gary Chapman called The 5 Love Languages. And it's basically a way for us to understand how we give and receive love. And this is so important because if you are giving love, and let's say you're an acts of service person, and so you're always trying to do good things for your spouse or your soon to be spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, right? And you are trying to show them that you love them by washing their car and by cleaning the dishes and doing all these things, but your spouse or soon to be spouse is a quality time person, and they're like, yeah, but you're never around. Do you see how that can cause issues? So the first question that you need to ask is, what is your love language? What is your love language? And if you don't know what the love languages are, I will send you a link to a blog post that I wrote all about the love languages, so you can kind of go through those. All right, number two, and this is a different question. I bet you haven't heard this one before. This question is, do you process internally or externally? This is so important, you guys, because I'm an external processor. When something happens, I think about it. I'm thinking out loud. I talk to myself all the time. And so I'm able to come up with a solution like real quick, right? Because I externally process. My husband, Sean, on the other hand, is an internal processor. What that means is that it takes some time to formulate a solution or an opinion to something. So in a fight, in an argument, an exchange of ideas, if you will, it could seem like he's not interested, or it could seem like he's stalling for time, or he doesn't really know where he stands on an issue. And really the truth of the matter is that he's just an internal processor. And so if you don't know that about each other, then what'll happen is when you get into conflict, to turn on each other because you don't realize that you're wired differently. And so you'll need to be able to respect if your soon to be spouse is an external processor or if they're an internal processor. It's really, really important, especially when it comes to conflict and communication. All right, the third one, and this is really important as well, is, what is your stance on having friends of the opposite gender? Now, a lot of us assume like, oh yeah, when you get married, you're not supposed to have all these outside friends. Some people don't believe that though. Some people believe that like, just because I married you does not mean I'm just going to give up all of my friends of the opposite gender. Listen, I'm not here to tell you which way is right or wrong. I'm just here to tell you that you two need to have a conversation about what you think is appropriate for your relationship. And you need to be on the same page, because if you are the person that thinks that, you know, I need to let go of all of these boyfriends and guy friends that I had from my past and just focus on my new husband, but your husband is like, well, that's you, but I'm not going to let old girl over here go. Do you see how that could become an issue? So you need to be able to have these conversations and be honest, because the worst thing in the world that you want to experience is either you or your soon to be spouse saying, oh yeah, I'm good. You know, I feel this way or I feel that way. And then you get married and realize that wasn't true. So make sure that you're having honest conversations. Okay. Number 4 is, what role, this makes me laugh. What role will your parents or family play in our married life? I'm reading to you guys from a blog post that I did. And this makes me laugh because, y'all, mother-in-laws and fathers-in-law, it could be a challenge sometimes. If you are not on the same page with how much your parents or family should be involved in your marriage, you are going to run into all kinds of issues. There is nothing worse than marrying a man who is like a complete mama's boy, and his mom feels like she's invited not only to the wedding but to the marriage too. And then she feels like she needs to like put her input. Thank God I don't have that problem personally, but I know many of people who do. And I have sat with couples who the parent is like way too involved in that marriage, and that marriage fell apart. I'm thinking of one specific marriage that totally fell apart because this mom was way too involved. I mean, she was all in the weeds of their marriage. But you need to have that conversation up front. Like, especially if you see like, oh, my person has like a really great attachment to their parents. That's a good thing. And you want that, right? You should want your spouse to have a healthy relationship with their parents. But what you don't want is for that parent to feel like they are somehow invited into, y'all's marriage in a way that is going to be detrimental. So make sure that you have that conversation. And then the fifth one for today is, am I required to work? Now, this one might seem a little silly. Like, what do you mean? Why wouldn't you work? You've been working. Why would you not work now? But there are people who are very traditional in marriage, and I'm traditional. I believe that the husband should be the main provider. I don't believe that women shouldn't work. I mean, I work and I have a business. And so I'm not saying that you shouldn't work. But what I am saying is that you need to have those conversations like, okay, do you believe that the man is supposed to be mostly responsible for the income, and then the wife's income we use for savings, vacations, things like that? Or is it like, I need to bring 50% and you need to bring 50%? And again, I'm not here to tell you which way is right or wrong. That's up to you and your spouse to decide that. But some of these conversations, y'all, are not being had on the front end. And so people are jumping into these marriages and they're like, oh my God, I'm so surprised. I didn't know he was like this. I didn't know she was like this. And I'm like, did you not go to premarital coaching? Did you not talk about this stuff before you got married? And so that is it for our part one. I want you all to jot these down. You can go back and rewatch this video. I will try to write them out in the description as well. But be sure that you are having these honest, heartfelt conversations before you get married so that you can alleviate all of the struggle, or a lot of the struggle, I should say, that's going to come on the back end. So as usual, if you are not subscribed to this channel, please hit that subscribe button and turn your notifications on, because I go live every day at 5 p.m. Eastern, and I want you to be here live with me. Also, I'm also going to link to, like I said, the 5 love languages article that I wrote, and this article that I wrote that goes into way more detail about these 10 questions that everyone should ask before you say I do. So that's it for today's video, guys. I will see you tomorrow here at 5 p.m. Eastern. Have a good day.